When many people hear the words worker-owned cooperative, there's a sense that the enterprise in question is destined to be dysfunctional or not profitable. In a world so dominated by investor-owned corporations and private capital, how exactly can cooperatives get to a similar scale, to a point where they can help their workers in a similar manner? Well, there are more than a few examples to choose from around the world. A worker cooperative, in the most simple sense of the term, is a collective enterprise in which workers have a direct say in the operations of their workplace. I'll be putting up a much more official definition here. Fundamentally, what we're talking about is a commercial enterprise which operates in a capital-driven market, yet rather than being beholden to shareholders or private donors or some other small clique, they are instead beholden to their workforce, the people that work for the company. Worker cooperatives can be found on pretty much every continent. Something that is very typical of a worker cooperative is to provide a scalable, sustainable service. Whether they are operating a passenger transport group or helping farmers process their goods and get them to market, they provide a service that a community can rely on, that families can rely on. Israel's largest passenger transit service, Egged, is one such example of a worker cooperative. The cooperative was started in 1933 after 4 smaller groups which operated around Tel Aviv merged to obtain a mandate from the State of Israel to operate passenger transit in the wider Tel Aviv area. National intercity transit service was functionally possible by 1951, when that now merged group of 4 further added 2 companies from the north and south of Israel. A further merger in the 50s with a bus service around Jerusalem allowed for intercity transit to be truly nationwide. By 1961, the company held a functional monopoly as the primary passenger bus service in Israel. Since the 1990s, the Ministry of Transport has been in charge of handing out government tenders for different public transport routes and has regularly shaken up which providers carry which routes. This method of selecting who the carriers are allows for the Rav-Kav, a national public transit card, to be established for everything except domestic airfare. That could be a video into itself. By 2010, Egged began overseeing operations of the Jerusalem Light Rail Network, expanding their portfolio of public transit services. It was also in this time that they began looking abroad, to places like Bulgaria. In 2010 as well, the workers in Egged Cooperative voted to disband the cooperative legally and to become a traditional company. This was due to fears over government contracts being revoked. Egged today serves over 30% of Israel's passenger transport needs, and the company employs over 6,000 workers, with a fleet of almost 3,000 vehicles. Although they are predominant, companies such as Don Bus, which runs the Haifa BRT network, are just as able to get access to a route and thus the Israeli public transit system. Mondragon is often cited by those in the United States as the premier European worker-owned cooperative. Today, Mondragon is Spain's 7th largest firm and is responsible for almost 8% of the Basque country's industrial output. They employ over 80,000 people as of 2019. The cooperative was started during the Franco dictatorship by a Catholic clergyman who built up a technical college that would form the foundation of Mondragon we see today. This focus on the Basque Country, during a time when the region had yet to experience economic revitalization, allowed for there to be a number of cooperatives that sprung up to help each other in the mission of growing the regional economy. Today, Mondragon primarily operates in 4 sectors, with the supermarket Aroski and the Basque bank Laboral Cutra being standout examples of success. In 2012, plans for an expansion of the Mondragon cooperative model in the United States with the help of the United Steelworkers Union was underway. By 2013, 75% of revenue came from 122 subsidiaries in 16 countries. Salaries tend to be higher for the lower-tiered workers, but lower for managerial staff. This is due to a wage mandate, which states that executive-level employees cannot be paid more than 6 times the lowest wage. They are a behemoth of an organization. You could make an entire channel just focusing on all the different cooperative firms that they work with. I'll be leaving a link below to their website that shows all of the different cooperatives in alphabetical order. There's a feeling I get when I read about these enterprises abroad, and that feeling is that they're not chasing ideals. They may be guided by an ideal, surely, but the workers in these groups don't let it consume them. Growth of the enterprise simply means that there's more chance to build up other enterprises and bring more money for the owners to distribute. You may rightly wonder about survivorship bias. That is to say, are these only notable because they've, survived? Well, I would argue that the fact is these cooperative enterprises, compared to larger firms in the tech space, just don't get as much media coverage to begin with. While the United States does have organizations like this, outside of a few niche examples, like the farming cooperative Ocean Spray, they tend to be hyper-local, with little appetite for growth beyond a small team. Primarily, they seem to operate as cafes, grocery stores, or other really low-impact, community-based organizations. Ocean Spray, while they do advertise themselves openly as a farmer-owned enterprise, I don't know if Americans truly understand the difference between a farmer-owned enterprise and a traditional company. These examples from abroad don't translate well to a nation that typically lacks a state apparatus which will guide and organize and help these new fledgling industries as in a young state of Israel. Cooperatives in the United States have just as much potential to grow. They just largely don't for whatever reason. Now, I'm not some idealist. Not every firm can or should be some kind of collective enterprise, but aspects of the model do have their benefit. They're a very strong economic counterweight in an era where large corporations have a duty first to shareholders and not their workers or the communities in which they serve.